Hi there. I wasn't going to do a video today. At least I didn't think I was. I had decided pretty much, I didn't want to like get into a structure of, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, instead of following spirit. And just a little while ago, I was meditating, and it was impressed upon me by my bigger self, larger self, to share something. So here I am. Again, as I always said, or as I've said before, this is my perspective. Consider the possibility. Imagine yourself that you're a vast, multidimensional, co-creative force in the universe, consciously aware of your oneness with all that is. And you and the rest of the universe are doing what you do. And in the 12-dimensional model that I speak, on the 8th dimension, planet Earth can be perceived as a conscious entity, Gaia. And she put out a call to the universe. She was ready for her next step in evolution. But because of the condition of her body, she needed some help. So she put out a call for help. And not just the condition of her body, but a bunch of extenuating circumstances in and around her beingness, she needed some help. As I said before, the force of evolution is at hand here on planet Earth, Gaia. We call it planet Earth. Like I said, she is known as Gaia. And on the 8th dimension, she can be perceived as a conscious entity. Well, a bunch of us, vast co-creative forces in the universe, we heard her call. And we said, yeah, we can help. So we volunteered to assist her. Now, the basic of what I'm going to talk about is veils. Veils on your consciousness. The model that I've always used is, you know how in movies we've seen where somebody has eye surgery, or in fact, you know somebody that has had eye surgery, and when the surgery's done, they wrap layers and layers and layers of gauze around their eyes to protect them as they're recuperating, convalescing. At a certain point, the doctor, is going to, after a period of time of recuperating, they want to see the condition of your eyes. And you notice they don't just come up with a pair of scissors and cut the whole swath off, the layers and layers and layers of gauze around your eyes. They don't just cut the whole thing off and just expose your eyes. They do it one layer at a time to acclimate your vision to the light. Imagine, this is just consider the possibility. We're imagining. Imagine that you, the vast creative force in the universe that you are, the multidimensional being that you are, you said you'd volunteer a part of yourself, an aspect of yourself, to assist Gaia. But in order to do it, and due to the illusion of free will, and I'll get into, specifically use the word illusion, and I'll talk about that later. But due to the illusion of free will, we couldn't just land on Earth and go, okay, this is the way that it is, yada, yada, yada. So what we did is we came in disguise, incognito. and say this, your arms, your body, your limbs, everything. This is the totality of you, this vast creative force in the universe. Well, you didn't take the whole of you and put it into the third dimension. You just took an aspect of you. Let's say this joint on your little finger. Now, this joint on your little finger is a part of you, an integral part of you. You are fully aware of everything about it. But what you did in order to step down the vibration, the frequency of this aspect of you so that it would fit into the lower frequency dimension, because say you're way up here in the 12 dimensional model, you know, just say you're here, but you want to get that aspect of your consciousness inserted down here into the 3D, the third dimension. You have to step down the frequency so that it can be compatible with the frequency of the 3D. So what you do is you wrap veils, that gauze. You wrap veils, layers and layers and layers of veils around the consciousness of this aspect of you, to where you have enough veils around this consciousness aspect of you to where this little aspect of you thinks it's a struggling human in the 3D. It is not aware now, because of the veils, it's not aware now of its vast co-creative oneness with all that is. It's not aware of the rest of you. This little part of you is not aware of the rest of you. Now, you, the big you, you're the one that put those veils there. When this little aspect of you is inserted into the 3D, as it's been stepped down in frequency, it absolutely forgot. And this is the explanation to the question of why don't we remember when we're born into this 3D? Why don't we remember anything about who we are, of our past lives, or pretty much anything? We come in here just plain from scratch, and in that I'm going to talk about the two big lies that this whole civilization is built upon. So these veils on your consciousness, that allows you to think and believe that you're a struggling human, that you have to do all the things that we do in this reality, that this is all there is, because this is all you know due to the veils. Because without the veils, you'd never be able to participate here and do this. But you, this little aspect of you, is not separated from the big you. And that's the first lie. The very first lie of this civilization is that you're separate from spirit, that you're separate from all that is, that you're a singular, struggling human, and woe is me. That's the first lie. And everything else is built upon that. The very second lie is the lie of unworthy. And this little veiled aspect of you will contrive to either prove or disprove the lie of unworthy. Either way, it will deal with the lie of unworthy, to either disprove it or to prove it. But it's still a lie. You are worthy simply because you are. You are worthy because you've never been separate from spirit. The first lie is that you're separate from spirit. It just looks and feels as if you are. Looks real, tastes real, smells real, feels real, sounds real. This whole thing But it's a lie. It's not true. You are not separate from spirit. You never have been. It's just you've been veiled. Your consciousness, the you that's listening to this right now, you have been veiled by yourself, by the big you. There is no separation. It just looks that way, but it's not. Now, question has always been asked, and you hear, especially lately now, in this period of time of, it's always been a time of ascension, but lately you hear in the New Age metaphysical community, you hear about raising your vibration. But a lot of people don't tell you, how do you raise your vibration? Or they'll say you have to do the inner work. Well, how do you do the inner work? Well, I have some tools to share with you that Hilarious shared with me and other Hilarious alumni. Gave us what he called technologies and consciousness. But those are the things you do, and that's the only. And here's the thing: you can do that, but you cannot remove the veils off your consciousness because you didn't put them there. You, the little you, didn't put the veils there, so you, the little you, can't take them off. Only you, the big you, can remove the veils, and those veils will be removed in divine timing, according to the divine plan. And the big you has, because of its oneness with all that is, it knows the divine plan. You, I don't know, but we trust that we're not separate from spirit, that the big us has our best interests in mind and will take care of us. Everything is just fine. Truly, regardless of what it looks like, everything is just fine. So those are the veils, and they can be your friend. Because imagine what would happen if you were with the veils of the layers and layers of gauze and with eye surgery, and the doctor just came off and just cut the whole swath off at once. Imagine the damage the light would have to your eyes, or just imagine the potential damage the light would have to your eyes because of your sensitivity to the light. You have to slowly acclimate to the light, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Not just a boom one time. No, layer upon layer upon layer. There is no rush. It may seem from within the third dimensional linear timeline like, oh, it's not happening, it's not happening. Well, it is happening, but there is a plan. And there is a timing to that plan so that everything can be done and acclimated smoothly with no trauma. The two biggest lies, the lie of the lie of being separate from spirit, and the lie of unworthy. Those two and everything else in this entire civilization are built upon that. Pretty much everything you can look at. Imagine an onion, layers and layers and layers of an onion. You know the analogy of and the metaphor of peeling an onion, getting down to the core. Any situation on this planet, if you are diligent enough and peel that onion back, the layer after layer after layer, you will eventually get to the lie of unworthy and the lie of being separate from spirit. Those technologies and consciousness, I'm going to share those with you now. I'm going to share one with you right now to help you with the nuts and bolts of How do you raise your frequency? This one particular technology, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most dynamic and fundamental that has worked for me in my evolution. It's called rescinding of vows. Rescinding or revocation of vows. In that layering of veils, vows go along with that so that you can participate here in the distortional 3D, because this is totally distortional. This isn't true reality. True reality is, as I showed you before, true reality is the big story. All of this oneness out there, this inside the circle is the distorted reality that we call 3D. But in order to play in that little sandbox, I like to call it, you have to, there's structures and rules, hence the veils. You can't play in that sandbox if you know that there's infinitely more outside of that sandbox. You can't call the small story real if you're aware of the big story. I hope I'm making sense. I think I am. I make sense to me, but I think I'm making sense. So the vows, they go along with the veils. Everything is interconnected. The vows and the veils, I would say easily 98% of the vows, even 99% of the vows that you operate within, you're unconscious to. You don't even know that they're there. But it's all the little agreements that you've made about life in general. This is the way this is. This is the way this is. Such and such here. Life is this way because of. And these all of these unconscious little building blocks that form your quote basis of your reality. Those vows are applicable and in force structurally until you rescind them. Once you rescind them, and there's a specific formula, once you rescind them and replace them with new, more divine structures, not necessarily vows, but more divine structures, and it's not that you have to come up with it, the big you will insert them because you're never, ever, ever alone. The big you knows exactly who you are, where you are, who you're with, what you're doing right now in this now moment, and always has known. Because that little veiled aspect that you call you has never been separate from the totality of you. And the totality of you has never been separate from that little veiled aspect of you. Is always, always, always know exactly what's going on and has your best interest in mind. To give you an example, I'm going to digress and go off on a tangent for a minute. This is a model that Big Me showed me maybe about a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. There's one thing. Let's say there's 7.3 billion people on the planet right now. I think the last guess estimate I heard there was about 7.3 billion people on the planet. There's one thing that every single one of us, every single person, every single one of the 7.3 billion people on the planet, there's one thing we all have in common. And there's no denying it. We all have a physical body. It doesn't matter whether it's male, female, black, purple, green, polka dot, whatever color. Doesn't matter what age. Everybody's got one. And it's the one thing we all have in common. The internal organs are all basically the same. The internal organs are all basically in the same places within the physical body. 99.999% of us all have 10 fingers and 10 toes, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and 2 ears. We're all basically the same. We all have this in common. Now, the interesting thing about this one thing that we all have in common, all we can do is make it go forwards, backwards. We can, by walking, we only basically have how much control? The point I'm trying to make is the control that we have, the conscious control we have over this body. All we can do is wiggle our fingers and our toes. We can move our 4 limbs. We can move our 20 digits. That's pretty much all we can do. We cannot control our blinking. We cannot control, there's a few people who could wiggle their ears, but pretty much most people can't wiggle their ears. But we can move our fingers, we can move our toes, we can move our 4 limbs. But what we cannot do, and we all have this in common, we cannot control our eyes blinking. We cannot control our respiration. We cannot control whether we can hear or not. We can't consciously turn off our hearing. Did I say breathing? We can't control our breathing. We can't control, in your torso, you have all of these organs. They're known as autonomic organs, autonomic bodily systems. They work, and they work without your conscious awareness or control. They just work. You don't have anything to do with them. Because right now, you can't tell me what your gallbladder's doing. You can't consciously tell me what your pancreas is doing, or your liver, or your kidneys. They just work, and you have no conscious awareness or control over them. And we all have this. It works this way for all of us. So let's say the control that you have, the 4 limbs, the 10 digits, 20 digits, including your toes. Let's say that control, and I'm being really generous, let's say that's 10%. Well, what's running the other 90%? Really good question. Who or what of you, because it's your body, it's you looking out of the eyes, it's you speaking, saying I. So who or what part of you is running that other 90% of your body that you don't have any conscious control or awareness of? The big you. The big you that put you here. This little finger, this little aspect, is this. And you don't have anything, you don't basically got nothing to do with how this thing runs. But it runs. It runs, excuse me, for X amount of years, however long you live, it runs. Sure, granted, I'm not saying perfect quote health or quote perfect health, because, I've spoken about my eye, but for the most part, it works. And when I get done with this, I'm going to work out. I'm 66 years old and I still lift weights. I keep this vehicle in shape to the best of my ability. But that's all I can do. I try to eat right, and take care of myself and that's what little control I have over it. But even if I didn't eat right, even if I didn't work out, I still have no control, no awareness of what my autonomic organs and systems are doing inside my body. My nervous system, my lymph system, my endocrine system. None of that. I don't know what it's doing, but it works, and it works pretty well. for the most part, and you know that I'm saying that's true. So there's the big question. Who or what's running all of that? That's the big you. And it has your best interest in mind. It doesn't just quit on you because it just got pissed off at you, regardless of what you did in this life, regardless of what you think you've done, or how bad you are, or how good you are. Doesn't matter. The big you knows exactly who you are, everything about it. Well, knows more about you because if it can run 90% of you and you can only control 10%, I venture to say that the big you knows you better than you know you. Doesn't that make sense? Yes, it does. So consider that, where we think that the hubris of the mental body. It's easier for me to follow spirit and just speak what comes to me instead of trying to follow an outline or even notes. But consider this, okay? I mean, we have in this existence, and this again, from my perspective, the fact that you're listening to this, I would venture to say you probably agree with me, or at least be open to it. So from my perspective, we have a four-body system. We have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a mental body, and we have a spiritual body. And we're androgynous. We're equally male and female. And in this particular dimension, the female aspect of us is manifested or viewed as your emotional body and your spiritual body. Your mental body and your physical body are viewed as the masculine aspect. So in this civilization, if you got a great mind and a great body, you're cool because it's a male dominant perspective civilization. I just call it the MDPC because it's shorter, but it's male dominant perspective. See, I didn't say masculine dominated. I didn't use the word dominated. So it's like, again, listen to my languaging. A male dominant perspective civilization as opposed to a female dominant perspective civilization. And it could be that, and from my understanding, has been in the past. Civilizations have been female dominant perspective civilizations. Quote the matriarchy or quote the patriarchy civilizations. One's masculine, one's feminine. The ideal place is, again, life is exquisite in the center of the paradox, being balanced, where you're total androgynous. Not what this civilization would show androgyny, where you're some weird looking person. You can be just as masculine looking as me, but still be internally androgynous. I have met my feminine nature, and I think I mentioned it before. Her name is Kim, my feminine half, and that's a whole nother talk when I get to twin flames. Your twin flame is not outside of you. Your twin flame is with you and has always been with you. There is no separation ever. It's always unity consciousness. Everything is always one. Paradoxically, separate but equal. Everything is one. So, I'm caught up. I was caught up in that bag of my twin flame. No, she's not outside of me. I don't have to go searching around for another person to fulfill me. Kim has always been here with me all the time. And I first met her well over 25 years ago. Didn't know who she was. I freaked out and went off through all kinds of processes to expel her, thinking, oh, I've been infested by a demon. Oh, I'm demon possessed by a female demon. Oh, is this an incubus? Or, a succubus. Yada, yada, yada. She was there all along. I actually participated, and I'll share that story sometime, of an exorcism driving down the road in a big truck at 70 miles an hour, and I was behind the wheel, and I participated in a self exorcism. And even after that, Kim has always been there. I will share with you the first time I physically met Kim, or not physically, but literally met her in person, blew me away, scared the shit out of me. She's always been there because she's my feminine half. She's the androgynous half of me, the Michael. Okay, I'm closing in on 30 minutes, but that's what Spirit wanted me to share with you today. The veils are your friends. You didn't put them there. You can't take them off. The big you will take them off as timing is right, in divine timing, according to the divine plan. The vows go with that. Oh, I didn't share that with you. Okay, here. This is the first tool I'll share. Again, rescinding of vows. And I'm going to say it slowly. So if it's yours to do, you can get a piece of, and this, I recommend that you do this. Get a piece of paper and write it down. Pause it, rewind it until you get the whole thing written down on a piece of paper. So that, because I don't expect you to remember it, but I really, really advise you and admonish you to utilize this tool. It will work. And it's not going to be a snap bang, oh, things are like bells and whistles go off, but you'll organically see changes starting to happen within you, within your perspective, and within your life. Rescinding of vows. So here we go. I formally rescind any and all vows that I or anyone in the body has ever made in this or any other lifetime or in any other time, space, or dimension has ever made about. Then you fill in a blank. So the preamble, I'll say it one more time. And I advise you say this out loud as many times as you need when you're rescinding a vow. And what you'll find also is that once you get into the groove of utilizing this tool, things will start floating to the surface of your consciousness. All the little things that you just unconsciously take for granted, the vows, they're there. I formally rescind any and all vows that I or anyone else in the body has ever made in this or any other lifetime or any other time, space, or dimension has ever made about. And then fill in the blank. That's step one. Now, between step one and step two, step two. I send to the light any and all energies, entities, mechanisms, or distortional structures that have supported or maintained those vows. I'll say that again. I send to the light any and all entities, energies, excuse me, it was energies first. I send to the light any and all energies, entities, or distortional structures that have supported or maintained those vows. In the space between, that was step two, in the space between step 2 and 3, sit there for a moment and allow the stuff to just energetically come up. Allow the structures, the vows that you rescinded, that you've enumerated and enunciated in step 1, let those energies and entities let that stuff just kind of flow out of you. And imagine yourself like here in the 3D, and you see a tunnel, and you send this stuff through the tunnel to the white light. I send to the light any and all energies, entities, mechanisms, or distortional structures that have supported or maintained those vows. And this, in your mind's eye, just see this stuff coming up out of your field, your aura, your beingness, you just moving up into the light. That tunnel, that tube, to the light is the big story, the fifth dimension. That tunnel is transversing the 3D, is transversing the fourth dimension to the fifth. So you're sending all of this stuff to the fifth dimension to be transmuted and done whatever the big U has to do with it there. And the big U will take care of it. Not for you to worry about what's done with it after that. You don't have to babysit it. Okay, step 3. I request from my spirit new pictures of reality, insights and awarenesses, and new divine structures to replace those vows. I'll say it again. I request from my spirit new pictures of reality, insights and awarenesses to replace those vows. And so it is. It's a 3-step process. And I realized something. I might as well do it right now because there's in the step 3, there's a phrase that I've never touched on, and I can see the question because as soon as I said it, I had the question. Oh, they don't know what that is. Pictures of reality. This is one of the first things Hilarious ever taught me. Kind of beat it into my head. The entire universe rearranges itself to accommodate your picture of reality. I'll say it again. And you can pause and write this down because, that's the neat thing about this video or doing, this format. You can always pause and rewind it and replay what I said. And like I said, I will try to be as specific in my languaging and my enunciation and yada yada, so that nice and clear. Try not to mumble and, be clear about what I say. This universal law, Georgianne and I, we had just arbitrarily assigned the number 22 so that we wouldn't have to always say the whole thing. We would just say UP22, Universal Principle 22, because 11 being a master number in numerology and all multiples of 11 are also master numbers in numerology, we like the number 22. So we just arbitrarily assign 22 to this. Universal Principle 22. The entire universe rearranges itself to accommodate your picture of reality. And then you go, okay, so what is a picture of reality? Well, we have a bunch of pictures of reality, but here's the best way to describe that. Draw a little diagram right quick. Okay. Hopefully you can see this. Let's pull that off of there. You can't see it very well. Well, I don't know. Okay, imagine this is a portrait. These are mountain ranges in the background. These are clouds in the sky. This is a little creek running through the picture. Now, this is the foreground, and all of this is the background. Okay? You can look at a portrait or a picture, whatever you want to call it, a photograph, whatever. You can look at a picture, a landscape, or whatever. And whatever's in the background is pretty much the foundation for that picture. Right? The foundation of that picture, the background sets the boundaries and the perspective of the picture for the most part. I don't know if perspective right or wrong is, but anyway, it sets the foundation for the picture. In the foreground of that picture, you can pretty much have whatever you want. That's why I use the landscape with the stream going through it. You can have a lake in the foreground. You can have a meadow. You can have a little cabin. You can have a little town. You can have anything you want in the foreground. But as long as the background is the same, the mountain range and the clouds and all of that, it can basically be the same picture. It sets the foundation of the picture, is the background. The foreground is interchangeable. That's, in consciousness, your pictures of reality. What the background, and 99% of the vows that you've made set up the background of your reality. And those you're not even consciously aware of. The foreground can change, and you can change that within your, quote, illusion of free will. And by the way, Hilarious is the only person in my, what is it, roughly almost 30 years of spiritual awakening? Hilarious is the only person, channeled entity or not, that I have ever heard use the phrase, the illusion of free will. Everybody else calls it free will. Everybody else says this is a free will zone. This is a free will planet. This is a free will universe. Yada yada. Hilarious is the only person that I have ever come across that has used the phrase the illusion of free will. That gave me pause. And I hope it does you. Okay, anyway, this reality, within your illusion of free will, you can change your foreground of your reality. You can move to a new town. You can change your partner, your spouse, whatever. You can have kids or not have kids. You can change your job. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can learn how to do this or learn how to do that. There's all kinds of things in your picture of reality that in the foreground you have the ability and the illusion of free will to change. But as long as your background stays the same, your reality stays the same. And the entire universe rearranges itself to accommodate your picture of reality. Because the entire universe loves you and very lovingly and dispassionately supports whatever it is you call real. Does not want you to go crazy. The universe will not. That's why it rearranges itself to give you exactly what you call real. The universe will not just one day the sky's purple, or one day, your spouse is gone, or you live in a different town, or one day there's a different president from the one you went to bed knowing that was true. The universe will not do that to you because the universe loves you and does not want you to go insane. So it will rearrange itself to accommodate your picture of reality. Now, this is something that just keeps me in perpetual awe. It does it simultaneously for every single person, every single sentient being in the universe. It does it simultaneously. Now, that knocks me out. But think this, there can be no separation. There has to be unity in order for that to actually work. Everything has to be connected and work together as one in order to pull that astonishing feat off. And it does it all the time, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Pretty cool. As far as I'm concerned, that's pretty cool. Like I said, it's just awe-inspiring. So when in the rescinding of vows, in the third step, I request from my spirit new pictures of reality, insights and awarenesses, and new divine structures to support those vows, the ones that you sent to the light. You just allow large you, higher self will replace those distortions that you sent, those distortional vows will replace those with more divine structures, pictures of reality, new ways of calling it true. Okay, I think I did a decent job on that. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go again. I love you. I'm enjoying this, and I will see you soon. Okay. Bye bye.